We are now on why I trust. I think this is going to be another podcast episode. Could be for Boo, could be for Human Game. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's Human Game. Never mind. This is the now Human Game podcast, Human Game console podcast number 0005. And we have a thumbnail that's prepared for the video, so I already know what it's going to be about. It has a picture of a Passy differential quart hammer and a gavel laced together with a boulder pushing up uphill. Uh, yeah. And the text says, "Laws, rules, challenges, and our own growth on this path." And it's like, yeah. So that implies two different things: laws and rules, law slash rules, and adversity, overcoming adversity. So like, why do I combine these two things together? Well, let's put it this way. I'm the kind of person who grew up thinking that I didn't think much about laws and rules growing up. There's a bit of a reversal on this that I'm going to explain in a second. I didn't think much about laws and rules growing up, but I didn't prioritize my own fun and peace of mind and happiness, all that. I didn't prioritize fun for some reason. Most people are the opposite. They don't prioritize the rules, but they don't think much of their fun. They don't overcomplicate their fun. They don't have to think much about having fun. They just have fun, but they don't prioritize the rules as a bit of a side effect of maybe that or something else. And so when they screw up, they take responsibility for it. I'm a little bit different in the sense that whenever I had to overcome some kind of a morale compass or logic or whatever, rationality, guaranteed nots, all these other things, that's when it started being a little bit of a hassle. It was like whether I truly felt I was conscious of the present moment or the past or whatever, what have you, even the future for that matter, it did not come any easier. For those of you who have seen how I dealt with laws and rules, there are times where I even look at the TOSs, terms of services, for certain platforms. I'm like, they have to have them, technically speaking. Actually, one of my favorite ways of setting up rules is to make rules that personalize your environment and your community. Not rules for every single nook and cranny, but rules about things that you actually think matter in the long run for your personality style community, and even in kind of a stylish way. That I think Baz Fuzz's server did this. Like they had like 3 or 5 rules for things that mattered and things that give them a personality. Having a personality style set of laws and rules is probably the best way to go about it, in my opinion. One of the best ways. But it doesn't have to be like that. But it's a really neat way to do, isn't it? It gives you worthy respect, basically. But yeah, that's something I had to mention in this video, this podcast episode. But like, I had a lot of trauma with laws and rules. I did not think much about them. I didn't think little about them, but I didn't think too much about them either. But I didn't prioritize my fun. And then most people, on the other hand, are like, they won't prioritize the rules, but they don't think much of their fun. They don't overcomplicate having their fun and peace of mind. So it's like, what does fun and the doing the right thing have to do with each other? Or so quote unquote right thing, or best thing. Podcast from the Move, I guess. Mysterious Domination versus Essential. If you've seen the other podcast, you'll know what I mean. But it's one of the slogans for that podcast from early on in the years. I struggled a lot with laws and rules. It was really weird. I didn't mean to break them. I didn't even mean to break them as a per on the famous quote. Rules are meant to be broken. I didn't even fall like that. I didn't even fall like the musical melody music theory thing where in order to be good, learn these rules. In order to be great, learn to dissolve them or break them. No, not even like that. I legitimately was either unconscious in the moment, so that looks like I'm suspending responsibility and accountability, but really I'm not doing that. I mean, even if it technically is something I have to face a reality for, or a fact or a guarantee not, it still can be weird. And here's the thing. There is adversity to be had even if it comes to the compromising chagrin of the right thing, or the best thing, etc., etc., etc. When you have to do the right thing, supposedly, and when you have to be considered someone who's not doing the right thing just because you didn't do it, there's one quote I can mention. There's 2 quotes I can mention that are very synonymous with one another. The first one of these 2 similar quotes, synonymous, is that choosing not to act is an action in itself. That's supposed to be positive, not negative. The positive way to see that is, even though I didn't do this, they're saying that this will lead to that I'll still be good in the long run. And then there's more to it than that, but that's a positive psychology thing. Even elders, positive psychologists know this. And so the negative way to see that is that, yeah, I didn't do that, and it'll just lead to more shit along the way. Something like that, maybe. I don't know. Or one who knows nothing, understands nothing. That's a weird way to see it. The Kingdom Hearts style, all that. But yeah, the other side of the quote is the burden of proof is on the active side, not the passive side. Things that you don't do shouldn't have to be held accountable. Things that you don't do automatically or subconsciously shouldn't have to be held accountable. But we'll know that in the meantime what responsibility even means if we can. But usually people assume that you know what the right thing is, and people usually assume that you know what is best for you, and that's either one of those things to be perspective or judgment wise. But having trouble learning about laws and rules, not so much understand what the laws and rules are, but how to adapt to them or with them or apart from them or whatever else have you. One of the weirdest gaslighting things someone could ever tell you is that every community has rules. They might be different, but they'll have rules. So that is a gaslight, and I'll tell you in a second why. It's like it is dismissive and facetious in the sense that as not just the idea that someone doesn't already understand that, even if they actually don't, but when you tell someone that, you're basically telling them that they don't have to adapt to rules that were inevitable in every single environment, all walks of life. Saying that all walks of life, oh, pipe dream this. A pipe dream fallacy I can mention in a second is that this is a kind of made up phrase I made, like pipe dream fallacy. Do everything but this. Do nothing but always do this. Those weird narrow nooks and crannies of standards, not double standards, but just standards on the list of what to do, what not to do, specific or not, majority, minority, etc. Those are pipe dream fallacies. And does not be my own philosophical, but like the laws and rules were always shaking for me. I didn't mean to break the rules. I didn't mean to be someone who neglected things, logic or fact or whatever. Guarantee nots. And I keep saying like that. The adversity in general, with or without the rationalities of moral compasses and learning how to adapt to the reality of society, as well as, you name it, the human game, learning how to adapt to some of these rules and realities of the humanity way of doing things, the long-term human way of doing things, even if they're discomforting, even if they're hard, even if they're bullshit. And it's like you have to find a way to adapt to some of those rules. Like learning how to, in general, I keep saying this in this podcast, I'll keep saying anyways, learning how to play this game, play these human games, and learning the finances or there's a long shit about that. I get in a second. Maybe not this podcast episode, but later on. But learning the school human game, the education human game, learning the career human game, the social human game. I mentioned the communication human game, and you name it. Those things come with time, but as well, everyone who's not having a quote unquote sense of urgency can be make or break anyone, good or bad, depending. That's my philosophy of that. But laws, rules, and the overcoming of challenges and obstacles and adversities that come in spite of your own path of being on it and on the growth and evolution path. The last thing I'll say is that would you know what this is a quote from the Move podcast, like the best thing is an ideal, the right thing is a promise. You're going to find out for yourself what you think you should or should not be doing, or have to do, or cannot possibly do, or should never be able to do, or can only do. But until then, your guarantee nots should have to rule your life. If you think of it in terms that you're going to be okay no matter what, even if that implies you have to do the right thing, because even people who are like, oh, do what makes you happy as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else or yourself, and they're not trying to be facetious when they say that. It's weird. Looking on Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and seeing a TOS on every single community that has to technically be there, but it's traumatic for people like me who have had the weirdest perspectives of the rules based on our own experiences, personal experiences, basically. That doesn't have to be public, but different philosophies different philosophies are everything, basically. And just looking at every terms of service and rule sets and guidelines, and let's do these rules so we can have fun as long as you follow them. And it's still traumatic because if you're anything like me, yeah, you'll have that trauma with you for maybe potentially for life. Maybe not too terribly, but it'll still be adaptable somehow. I don't mean that pessimistic, but just, but the right thing, if the right thing is a myth and the best thing is a illusion, then you still should probably do your best to follow through with some kind of rule book or ruler thing. And even the anarchy agora world, they believe that the anarchism thing is more like no rulers, not rules. They're not anarchists, aren't people who avoid the rules. They just avoid rulership. So that's the agora for you. Agora, agorism, anarchy. If you want to see more of that, go to Marchscoff or Caceres26. It's going to be the same thing anyways on YouTube or BitChute. But other than that, yeah, this is podcast number 5, and we were talking about laws and rules and adversity overcoming challenges in spite of those rules, with or without them. Thank you guys very much for watching this 10-minute video of the podcast. Next one. We'll talk about maybe finances next. That was a pressing matter for some reason, unfortunately. Other than that, yeah. Take care, guys. The thumbnail is really cool looking. Oh my gosh, I don't need an end card, but that thing looks really cool. I made it in like 5 minutes. If it wasn't for Eeksape screwing me over, damn it.